Don't feel bad, Homer. 9 out of 10 religions fail in their first year.
Let's game, Hendrix. God, I gotta ask you something. What's the meaning of life?
Homer, I can't tell you that.
Come on.
You'll find out when you die.
I can't wait that long.
Hi, today I want to talk about my experience with religion because I would be very surprised if you told me that you had never thought of religion in any context. I feel like it's a pretty universal experience for everyone to think about it at least once in their lives. Whether you're a believer or not, I do feel like this is something that everyone has questioned or thought of. Because this is the internet, I feel like I need to preface by saying I'm not here to try and convince you of anything, and if I accidentally say something that offends you, which will most likely happen, go me, that is really not my intention. I am not trying to convince you of anything. This is literally just my experience. If I say something that doesn't sit with you the right way, I'm so sorry. I promise you that's not what I'm trying to do. I am just speaking on my own personal experience. So I'm sorry in advance if I say something. I'm not trying to. I'm just wanting to have an open and honest conversation about my experience. I also watched Heretic recently, which is also why I'm thinking about it so much. If you've watched that horror movie, you know you walk away from it thinking, which God, dang it, I just hate thinking. Sorry, I feel like the shadows on my face are super annoying. I'm gonna take off my glasses. I hope that's okay. Sorry, it's kind of ruined the continuity of the video. When I was younger in primary school, I went to scripture. I also actively chose to go to an after school care system thing, which was like you play with the kids, you get free food, you then read a little bit of scripture at the end. And I had always believed in God, whatever I thought that was. When I was younger, I believed in God. And I don't know why I initially believed in God. I don't know where that came from. I would like to argue that it was probably because I grew up watching The Simpsons. If you've seen The Simpsons, you know that the way that they depict God is kind of like big man in the clouds. You never see his face and he is watching down on everyone, and it's very much just a generalization of what God is. And that is the only thing I can think of. That is the only reason why I'm like, is that why I believed in God? Because so many things that I saw on The Simpsons I was like, oh, that's true. I don't know. It literally half raised me alongside with my parents, of course. So the cool thing about my parents is that they always let us do whatever we wanted. We could believe whatever we wanted. They let us figure it out for ourselves. And it wasn't until one day I was driving in the car and I remember asking my dad if he believed in God. And he said no. And I was really shocked and almost upset because I did. I asked my mum and she said no. And I was like, okay, hang on. I'm going to scripture. I'm going to these after school care things. Where did this come from? Why do I believe in God? That is the first time after asking my parents when I questioned everything. And I was like, oh, I had such a strong, at least from what I remember, I had such a strong faith in God. And I was like, there is this man up there watching me, guiding me. I personally haven't experienced him yet, but I just thought it was a matter of you got to really believe and keep believing and prove your faith, and then he'll show himself to you. I just thought of it as not necessarily fact, but it was just something that I always believed, the sky is blue. That's just what I thought. All of a sudden, my entire belief system was crumbling. And I was like, what? And that was towards the end of primary school. So then going into high school, and then I think I just found myself in high school and I wasn't really thinking about it ever. So I always look back on it and I'm like, what made me do scripture? What made me do that after school care thing? I think I had neighbors that may have been religious, but I'm not too sure. So when I reference faith and live faith, just know that I'm more so talking about Christianity and the idea of God, and I guess from the perspective of a Christian, because that's all I've really known and learnt about the most, I suppose, although I don't really know anything. And that's what's interesting too, right? I don't really know much. And all throughout high school, never really thought about it. If it was to ever come up in conversation, I would just say, I believe in something, I don't know what that is. And that's pretty much what I still say to this day, because what I will say for certain, what I am confident in saying, is that I personally believe that there is something out there, even if that's aliens and other life forms, something. Atheists don't believe in anything, right? So that's not me, because I don't know what's up there in space. If I start to think about space and infinity and how it's like, oh my God, planets, no, we are not the only ones. I'm sorry, I can't understand how we could be the only possible things here. I don't get it. I'm sorry, atheists, but I just think there is something. I find it super interesting because when you see people debate online, there are so many arguments for to believe and not to believe. And I'm sitting there like, I agree with both of them, so I find it super hard. What's interesting is that I think in a lot of these debates that you see online when it comes to religion is like the non-believers almost, I feel like they don't want to believe in a way, not all of them, but a lot of them just like don't want to believe. Whereas I'm someone who's like, I want to believe. I would love to know if something was up there like watching down on me, or I wish I knew that God was real and true, and I would love for a sign, but I can't argue with the counter arguments. I don't know if I could get into all of the counter arguments, right? But I do think there are some really, really good ones, and they almost feel stronger than the ones that are to say that yes, he exists. So all of the arguments from a non-believer I find to be very good and very hard to argue with. So then I have to question myself and say, well, if I really was a believer, then I don't know, maybe I should have a bit more faith. So yeah, it's really weird because it's like I'm someone who wants to have faith, and I feel like I've asked so many times to be like, God, if you are real, show me that you are real. Logically, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if God was real, why wouldn't he just show himself to me? Am I not looking hard enough? Why wouldn't he make it super easy? And then obviously it goes into like, why would suffering exist? We can obviously get super deep about it, but I'm not here to debate anyone. This is just about my personal experience. I used to know this girl. She didn't believe in God whatsoever. And she actually used to say, I think people who believe in God and religion are stupid. She would be like, you're literally stupid if you believe that. And I was like, no, I don't think that's fair. I definitely don't see it like that at all. And I also think that everyone can absolutely be respectful of someone's beliefs. So she would say that all the time, and I would just be like, no. This person is also no longer in my life, so that's fine. She would always say this, and I would always be like, oh, well, I believe in something. I just don't know what that is. Does that make me stupid? I don't think it makes someone stupid. I think that's a really... I feel like that's kind of mean and a toxic mindset to have. I don't think that's a fair judgment or a very good argument, just to call people stupid because they believe in something and you don't. I don't know if I'm the only one. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I always just found my case very interesting because I do think there is an essence of non-believers not wanting to believe. They're just like so set in stone on what they think is true. Whereas I am finding myself in the middle of everything. I'm like, well, I want to believe, but I don't think I can believe. A part of this series is talking about the things that I have learnt and contemplated over the years, and I don't want to spend my whole life questioning. I think I would like to just have an answer, but I also don't see any shame in changing my mind if, for example, I start to believe and then I don't. I feel like for me, it's probably always going to be a very up and down experience. I know people ask for signs all the time. God, are you real? But guarantee something would happen to me and I would just be like, that's just a coincidence. That's just this. That's why it needs to be so specific. I'm always very interested in hearing people's stories and their own personal beliefs. It doesn't offend me when people believe or don't believe. I feel like I can see everyone's point of view. It's something that I probably think about, not all the time, but definitely a couple of times a month. I'd be super interested in hearing all of your guys' personal stories down below, so please feel free, be respectful. Remember that this is literally my own personal experience, and I hope that doesn't take away from your experience. So that's my experience. If I ever have any updates, I'll be sure to let you guys know, but thank you so much for listening. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.
I'm just concerned because my husband hasn't been attending your services lately.
Well, I wasn't sure I was doing the right thing, but then God himself told me I should seek a new path.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he appeared before me in a dream, and I knew that was special because I usually dream about naked Marge.